I remember me and this babysitter, we ended up actually standing up together and we went to the closet. And once we went inside, she closed the door and said, okay, well, I guess you know the rules, right? Yeah, I think so. Okay, well, let's do this then. And she ended up making out with me and we did the devil's tango. All because we were playing 7 Minutes in Heaven. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to another super crazy but embarrassing story. Now, today's story all takes place back when I was in grade 10, and in my grade 10 year, I was a massive player. No joke, the only things I cared about was playing video games and playing girls. Other than that, I really had no self-awareness for anything else in my life, and it was a really bad, but at the same time, good life to enjoy. I know it sounds kind of crazy, because every time I tell these stories, I always say I regretted so many of these things, but at the same time, without these amazing things happening in my life, there'd be nothing for me to tell on the internet. Anyways, going on with the story, I remember there was a time in my grade 10 year where I was coming home from school, and this was on a Friday, and I remember I was so excited for the weekend to basically stay home and just grind out Call of Duty because I wanted to get all my guns gold so I can get diamond rank in all my weapons. But right as I got home, I remember when I opened the door, I ended up seeing 2 suitcases just sitting there. I was so confused because I wasn't going anywhere. I already made plans this weekend to stay home and play video games. So right as I saw those 2 suitcases sitting there, I ended up going upstairs to my parents' bedroom and I saw they were packing still. So right as I saw that, I looked at my mom and said, Mom, why are you packing? Bubba, we're going to America. Do you want to come with us? No thanks, Mom. Can I stay home? Okay, but if you stay home, I have to get you a babysitter, Bubba. A babysitter? What? I don't need a babysitter. Mom, I'm 16. Bubba, you don't pay attention in school, so either you come with us or you get a babysitter. At that moment, I was so annoyed, but at the same time, how bad could it be that a babysitter watching me as I'm playing Call of Duty? Like, there's really gonna be nothing for her to really watch. So I ended up agreeing to the babysitter, and my mom always went to this online website where she would hire a babysitter. And let's just say this site was the most random thing ever. Actually, funny enough, I tried searching for it the other day as well, and it seems to not exist anymore, but I don't really blame the website because the type of babysitters that my mom was getting to come over was the worst thing ever. Anyways, going on with the story, I remember I was getting really annoyed that I had to get a babysitter, but I went in my room, I sat down, put on my gaming headset, and started playing Call of Duty. But as I was in the middle of a team deathmatch, I remember my mom ends up opening my door, and she says to me, Bubba, this is your babysitter. Pay attention to her and listen to her, okay? And without even me looking at my door, I ended up just saying, yeah, okay, Mom, I'm in the middle of a game right now. Just talk to you later. Okay, Bubba, be safe. I'm going now. And she ended up leaving. I ended up hearing my front door get slammed shut, and right as I heard that, I ended up turning my head, and all I see was my babysitter look at me saying, so, like, you don't even say goodbye to your mom properly? Like, are you serious, bro? Like, is the game really that important to you? Wait, don't I recognize you? Yeah, we go to the same school, dummy. I'm literally, like, one of the seniors in your own high school, and you have a babysitter? Like, are you good? At that moment, I was so embarrassed, but at the same time, did I really care? No. Even though she was one of the hot grade 12s in my school, I didn't want to give her, you know, any form of attraction because I didn't want her thinking anything weird. So I ended up turning my head again, and I just started playing my Call of Duty game, and she just ended up shrugging her shoulders and went downstairs. I remember a couple hours went by, and I did not hear a peep from the babysitter. No joke, we ended up keeping our separate ways, and we just kept doing our own thing. But as I started to get hungry that 2 hours later, I remember I ended up standing up and actually went downstairs. When I got downstairs, I remember she was on the phone with a couple of friends, and she was saying things like, oh, like, I don't know if I can go. Like, I'm taking care of someone. Well, I don't know. Yeah, he goes to her school. And she kept talking to her friends about me to the point where I ended up grabbing the sandwich that I made and walked up to her saying, hey, like, what are you guys talking about? Oh, Bubba, nothing. Don't worry about it. No, like, what's going on? You can tell me. Like, I'm not that much younger than you. Okay, well, basically there's a huge party happening and like one of the football players are hosting it. I was wondering, can I go? I mean, you can, but like there's cameras around the house, so if you leave, my parents will know. Okay, well, like, what if you ask your parents if I can go? Well, I mean, I doubt they would pay you. Okay, you know what? New plan. How about you tell your parents that I'm taking you out for a bit and then we'll be right back before 12. It'll be super easy. I remember that moment, I didn't really know what to say because me going to a party back in high school wasn't something unusual. Like, I've done it many times, but the only thing I was worried about was getting in trouble with my parents. So what I ended up texting my parents was, hey mom, hey dad, I just want to let you guys know I'm gonna quickly go to the grocery store because we ran out of some food. So me and the babysitter are gonna be out, okay? My parents ended up saying okay, and that's when me and her, we ended up leaving. We got inside her car since she was a senior and had a way better car car than me, and we ended up driving to this party. And right as we pull up to the driveway of the party, no joke, there were so many different people from my high school there. It was insane. Like, no joke, there were like people in the front lawn, there were people inside the house, there was people in the backyard of the house, there were people upstairs. Like, this party was like full on packed with a bunch of women and a bunch of cool kids from my high school. I remember when I saw this, I was so excited. And I remember right as I get out of the car, my babysitter ends up looking at me saying, okay, Bubba, remember, before 12, we have to be at this car. You understand me? No matter what, we have to make sure we keep ourselves accountable because I'm not trying to get in trouble. Yeah, don't worry. Everything's gonna be fine, is what I told her. And that's when me and her, we ended up going to this party. We ended up hanging out with a bunch of people. And also we did, you know, do a lot of crazy things that I cannot say on the internet. But now comes the craziest part of the story, because what ended up happening next, honestly, was so bizarre. Because I remember in the middle of the party, there was a girl that walked up to me. Now, it wasn't my babysitter. It was just some random girl. And she looks at me and says, hey, Bubba, we're all playing like a bunch of different party games in the other room. Do you want to join us? Yeah, sure. And I remember I ended up following this girl to this room. And I remember there were a bunch of women and like 3 other guys. And then there was also my babysitter that was in there. I remember we were all so confused on what was going on. And that's when someone pulled out a bottle that they were drinking from earlier. And he ends up saying, okay, guys, I think we all know the rules to 7 minutes in heaven. At that moment, I started to kind of panic because I ended up looking at my babysitter and she was staring right dead into my eyes as if we did a big mistake walking into that room. And well, I remember we ended up playing a couple rounds and obviously like me and her, we didn't get chosen yet. And that's when it ended up happening. They asked me to spin the bottle. I spun it and yeah, it landed on my babysitter. I remember I ended up staring at my babysitter once again straight into her eyes and she stared at me. And for some reason, this babysitter like was kind of hesitating, but there was a pretty obvious point where she was trying to make it seem like she was one of the cool girls, I guess, and stood up and said, okay, Bubba, let's go to the other room. Come on. Wait, really? Yeah, let's go. She ended up grabbing me by my wrist and we ended up going into the closet. And when we walked into that closet, no joke, she looked at me and said, okay, Bubba, we have 7 minutes to do whatever you want. Just what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? Well, it's a part of the game, silly. We're supposed to make it look like we did the Devil's Tango. So like, I don't know, let's just do it. Okay. At that moment, me and her, we got straight to it. We made out and we did the Devil's Tango. And no joke, after 7 minutes were up, we ended up hearing everyone outside the closet going, okay, guys, your minutes are up. And me and her, we ended up getting all our clothes on as fast as possible. And we walked out of that closet and it was very, very obvious we did it. At that moment, one of the guys ended up walking up to me and patting me on the back saying, let's go. A sophomore hitting up a senior. Now that is iconic. And I felt like I was actually pretty cool. From there, I remember time was running out and it was almost like 12 o'clock at night. So me and my babysitter, we ended up heading straight to her car. And when we sat inside, we just looked at each other super awkwardly. And that's when I said, honestly, if you don't want to talk about it, we don't have to. No, I mean, like, I don't know. I'm not complaining. Like, you were pretty big. Thanks is what I told her, super weirdly saying like, thank you after that weird statement. I don't really know. It was a lot. And me and her, we ended up getting back to my place and we went to bed as if nothing happened. To this day, me and her have not spoke about this, but at the same time, she does follow me on IG. So maybe you guys could find her. But at the same time, just follow me for more embarrassing stories. Peace out, guys. I remember me and my teacher, we end up going inside the closet. And the first thing she says to me was, oh, so like, did you do the homework yet, Bubba? And I remember just looking at her thinking, what in the world am I doing in the closet playing 7 minutes in heaven with my teacher? Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba and welcome back to another crazy but embarrassing story. So this story all starts off in the year of grade 8. Now, grade 8's the final year of middle school for me. And let's just say middle school is a whole freak show. Literally, it's the years where basically everyone's hitting puberty and things start to make more sense between your legs. I know that sounds really too much to say, but YouTube, please understand this is for educational purposes. Now, going on, I remember my grade 8 year, there was a girl in my class that not a lot of people liked for some reason. And by people, I mostly mean the guys. I really have no idea why a lot of guys in my school did not like this girl specifically, but she was not really well known or liked between all the dudes in my school. But as for the girls, well, almost every girl in my school absolutely loved her. I have no idea how this even worked. I didn't know if she was, you know, lesbian or something. But at the same time, we were in grade 8 and we didn't know any better. So So honestly, I had really no idea why. Until one day I remember I was in my middle school walking down the hallway to my next class. And this girl that a lot of girls liked, but not a lot of guys liked, ended up walking up to me. She walked up to me and says, "Hey, Bubba, I don't know if you knew, but like, I'm having like a birthday party. And like, I was thinking, do you want to like maybe go?" And as I was deciding in my head, I remember seeing a bunch of guys just staring at me thinking, "Yo, why is that girl talking to Bubba, bro? Is he snitching?" And in my mind, as I knew they were just saying that, I was like literally trying to focus on the conversation at hand. And I said to her, yeah, I mean, I'm down. Where's the birthday party?" "Oh, it's totally at my place. A lot of girls said that like they thought you were like cool to go and like, you know, you didn't hate me or anything. So, you know, I'm trying to make it like more boy-girl party. And like my parents are totally cool with it. So do you want to like go?" Yeah, sure. Just send me the invite." I remember she ends up texting me the address and I start walking away from her. And as I was walking away, I remember two of my friends ended up walking up to me saying, "Yo, Bubba, why'd you talk to that girl, bro? Everyone's questioning it. All the guys are concerned." "Oh, she just invited me to her birthday." "Are you going?" "Well, I mean, yeah, why wouldn't I?" "Bubba, bro, as a homie, me and him are gonna show up with you, all right? You guys are gonna show up to the birthday party with me?" "Yeah, and don't worry, she can't say no because we're the cool kids." Sure. Okay, if that's how it works. Yeah, sure, you guys can go." I really had no idea why, but to be fair, in my friend group back when I was in grade 8, we had the really confident dude and we had the really annoying dude, and then there was just me, the quiet one. And knowing this group dynamic, we always got into crazy shenanigans. But let's just say this girl's birthday was one of the most insane things ever, because I remember the day of the party ended up happening. And I remember after school, everyone started talking about this party, and a lot of girls were coming up to me, actually, funny enough, and saying, "Hey, Bubba, are you going to like that girl's party?" Yeah, I got invited. I'm bringing two of my friends." "Okay, well, we'll see you there." Oh my goodness. And they all got excited. A lot of girls were excited for this party, and I had really no idea why. But then finally, when I ended up basically going to my final class to end off the day, I remember my teacher ends up saying, "Okay, class, so this weekend, do not email me. I'm celebrating my daughter's birthday, but have the homework done by Monday. All right, have a good weekend." And I remember thinking, crazy how she has a daughter that's birthday is the same day as the birthday party I'm going to. But right as I walk out of the classroom, I remember I go home, I get dressed, I tell my mom I'm going to a birthday party. She was totally surprised because usually in grade 8, I was a loner and a really boring kid. Wow, my mom really thought less of me that time. But you know what? That's not the point. After I got ready and everything, I ended up basically begging my dad for a ride, and he ended up driving me to the birthday. And my dad ended up telling me right before leaving, he said, "Bubba, if you need me to come pick you up and anything weird happens, you tell me and I'll get you, okay?" "Yeah, no problem, Dad," is what I told him. And then I ended up heading inside the party. When I went into this grade 8 middle school party, I remember I ended up seeing a lot of girls there, and I was like, okay, I see a lot of girls there from my school. But then out of nowhere, I see my two friends running up to me saying, "Bubba, do you know whose house this is?" "No, why?" And that's when I realized whose house it was. It was my teacher's house, because it was her daughter that invited me to her daughter's birthday. Does that make sense? I don't know if that made sense, but if it did, you guys know what I'm talking about. Basically, I was in my teacher's house, and I was like, yo, this is really weird. And as I see my teacher looking at me, and I'm staring at her, and she walks up to me and my friend saying, "Oh, hey, Bubba, I didn't expect my daughter to invite you guys." Yeah, no, we didn't know you lived here." "Well, I did say my daughter was having a party, didn't I?" Yeah, no, you did in class. We just didn't know, you know, it was your daughter." "What do you mean? Do you guys not know my daughter's last name? It's the same as mine." No, we don't really know each other's last names," which to be fair, my grade 8 year, I didn't know anyone's last name. Okay, I'm gonna be brutally honest with you. But I remember, as awkward as that conversation was, the girl that ended up inviting me, the teacher's daughter, ends up seeing me and runs up to me and gives me a hug. I ended up giving her a birthday present, and then that's where everything just starts going really bad, because this girl really wanted to have like a proper girl and boy party, but there was only 3 dudes, which is the 2 friends I had and me. And as for the girl side of things, well, there was literally like a bunch of girls, so the ratio was like 3 to like 15, which is super weird in my opinion, and super awkward. But I remember it got to the point where as we were all hanging out in the living room, just talking and mingling, and I guess really just hanging out with each other like grade 8s do, I remember this girl that was her birthday ended up standing up on the coffee table saying, "Okay guys, we're gonna play a game. We're gonna play 7 minutes in heaven. Everyone get in the circle." And at that moment, I was just thinking in my mind, how in the world are we gonna play 7 minutes in heaven with only 3 dudes and 15 girls? Like, this is making no sense whatsoever. But I remember we all ended up hopping into a circle, and this is where things get awkward, because I remember my teacher walks in saying, "Oh my goodness, are you guys playing 7 minutes in heaven? I used to play this all the time. Let me join in." And that's when I looked at my teacher and looked at my friends, and my friends were totally confused on what in the world this teacher was doing. Like, we thought she was trying to make, like, you know, 7 minutes in heaven more PG, I guess. But honestly, this teacher full on just started to play. And as we started going through a few rounds of 7 minutes in heaven, automatically it was my turn to spin the bottle. And I remember as I was spinning the bottle, I was praying that it would land on anyone but my teacher or her daughter. And guess who it lands on? It landed on my teacher. At that moment, I started to panic inside, and I'm like, bro, like, do I have to? Is there like any way I can not do it? But then this teacher ends up standing up first and saying, "Okay, Bubba, let's go inside the closet." And me, I felt terrified, and I really did not want to stand up. But then she ended up grabbing me by my shoulder, and she ended ends up basically standing me up and we go inside the closet. As we're in the closet, I remember she ends up closing the door and the closet was like super dark. Like I could not see anything. But as I'm in there with my teacher looks at me and says, "Oh, so Bubba, I'm just curious. Did you end up finishing the homework? You're asking me about homework when we're in the closet," is what I told her. And that's when the teacher ended up saying something more crazy, which was, "Oh, I mean, if you want to do something else, just say so." And that's when she ended up basically pushing herself towards me and we ended up doing the devil's tango in the closet. Yeah, I know. Really crazy, but at the same time, super, super weird. And I remember we ended up being there for more than 8 minutes. Like, no joke, as the kids were literally yelling, "Okay, time's up, guys." Me and this teacher did not come out because we were trying to put on our clothes as fast as possible. And the most awkward part was that her daughter ended up yelling inside the closet saying, "Mom, you can come out now with Bubba." And me and this teacher, we ended up getting everything on as quick as possible. And my teacher was trying to speed run fixing her hair as I ended up just basically trying to buckle up my pants. And finally, when the closet door opens, we both walk out as if nothing happened. And right after the party, when everything was over, I remember my dad went to go pick me up. And as I'm walking out her door, my teacher grabs me by the shoulder and says, "Bubba, this is our secret and no one knows anything but me and you, okay? Yeah, I'll see you in class." And that's when I ended up leaving. I got inside my dad's car and pretended nothing happened. And I'm not gonna lie, luckily for that whole school year, my grade 8 year, I didn't have to do any homework. My teacher wouldn't give me any just to keep her secret, which, I mean, now it's not a secret anymore, but to be fair, I don't get her homework anymore since I'm a full-on adult now. So yeah, things change for the crazy. But honestly, if you guys don't believe this ever happened, then follow for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys. I remember me and this waitress, we went into the walk-in cooler because we had to spend 7 minutes in there. And I remember once we got in there, she said, "Honestly, Bubba, like, I always thought you were like super cute." Like, what? Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba and welcome back to another really embarrassing, but I gotta say crazy story. This story all takes place back when I was in grade 12, or technically speaking, I was actually graduated high school. So I was straight out of high school. I was 18 years old. And to be honest, at this time, the only thing I focused on was my future and trying to figure out what I want to do next. But back after when I graduated high school, I ended up working at a restaurant because, well, I wasn't a content creator yet. So this wasn't a full-time thing until you guys made it happen, which thank you guys so much for that, by the way. But going on with the story, I worked at a restaurant for a bit and I remember I actually really liked it. The restaurant I worked at was very laid back and it was really kind of just chill. And a lot of the people I worked with were also super young, around my age. And even though our managers were a lot older than us, like I want to say in their 30s, about to hit 40s, they would basically be super laid back, trying to be cool kids like us apparently, or to get to relate to us. I don't know, a lot of adults do this, which is really cool in my opinion, but at the same time, it could lead to a lot of trouble. But I remember one time when I was working a shift, out of nowhere, I ended up seeing my manager walk up to us saying, "Hey guys, in the kitchen, real quick, I got an announcement. We're going to be doing kind of a after party on Friday, very late at night. If you guys are able to make it, please tell me. We're going to be trying to have everyone that works here together and closing down the restaurant for it." At this moment, a lot of us were like down for it, obviously, and we were all pretty excited to see what was going to go on. But as for me, I'm going to be honest with you, I was kind of on the fence about it because I didn't really get along with anybody, nor did I really like socialize with anyone at the workspace. I mostly just kept to myself because, well, I don't know, it was a very stressful time back when I was just graduating high school, and I didn't think too much of it. So while all the guys in the kitchen that I worked in ended up going up to the manager, signing up their name, I remember after my shift, I ended up basically getting ready to leave, and while I was at my locker getting ready, my manager ends up walking in saying, "Hey Bubba, you're the one guy in the kitchen that didn't walk up to me trying to join this party. You're not down to join in? Like, what's going on with you, man?" I don't know. I got a lot of things going on, I guess. I don't know. I might go. I'm not really sure. Well, I'm gonna be honest with you, Bubba. A lot of the girls in the front of house want to see you there. So my opinion, just show up, man. It's good for work. Now, I'm gonna be honest. I wasn't surprised that he wanted me to go, but when he said the front of house wanted me to go, that's when I was kind of shocked because I didn't really speak to any of them other than when I had to put like glasses away at the front bar. So at this moment, I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I mean, sure, I'll show up, I guess. I'll make an appearance." "Okay, awesome. I can't wait to see you there." And he ends up walking away. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you. Even though I told him that I would show up, in my mind, I actually really did not want to show up. In my opinion, I was probably gonna just say like I had a final I had to study for or something, because at the same time, I'd rather just be home playing video games instead of hanging out at work. Like, I don't know what kind of people like to stay at their workplace and hang out, but definitely was not for me. So I remember the next day, I ended up basically going into work and I decided to just do my normal shifts because I usually worked around 4 shifts a week. But then I realized when I went to go look at the schedule that the schedule has changed and I ended up getting a closing shift on Friday. Now, once again, like my manager said earlier, Friday was the party. So no matter what, even though I was closing, afterwards would be right away the party. So at that point, I was like, you know what? There's no point of me leaving and just calling in sick because I'm going to be there anyway. So I remember Friday rolls around and I remember I ended up basically working the shift. And at the start of my shift, I started to realize that there was a lot of people that I worked with just hanging out the whole time when I was working. It got really annoying because they would order food and then I would have to make food and then wash their dishes. It was just really upsetting. But then right after, as the restaurant closed fully late, and basically they were all getting ready for the party. I was basically cleaning up the kitchen as fast as I could to see if I could sneak out of there and not get noticed. But right as I was about to finish cleaning, out of nowhere, I ended up seeing a waitress that I worked with end up coming to the back and saying, "Hey, Bubba, are you done? Because everyone's ready for you and waiting for you, actually." Wait, everyone's waiting for me? Well, yeah, it's the party, dummy. Like, aren't you gonna come hang out? Now, at this moment, I'm not gonna lie to you. The waitress that was talking to me that worked at the front of house was really attractive, and honestly, I probably could use a good distraction. I basically tried to make my mind up and make it a good idea to go to this party. So me still being in my uniform, I ended up going to the front of house and I ended up hanging out with everyone, and it was actually a pretty good time. Even though most of them were a lot older than me by like a year or two, I will say this, it was really fun hanging out with everyone, kind of getting along with people that I never really talked to in the workplace. But then I want to say this is where things got really, really weird, because I remember our manager, like I said earlier, he tries to act young and basically try to be cool. And right after he finished with this bottle he was drinking, he ended up standing on top of a table at the restaurant. He ends up yelling out, "All right, guys, let's play spin the bottle." At this moment, I remember it was so funny because all the kitchen staff, including me, were just looking at each other. And then all the waitresses were just kind of hyped up and excited. And me, I'm just kind of thinking like, is this really a good idea? Like, do you really want to poop where you eat? Like, is this safe? Is this even something I should bring up to HR because like it's our manager saying it? I don't know. I didn't want to play, but then obviously our manager started pushing all of us towards this table and we all sat down and he got on top of the table and started spinning the bottle. I remember all of us just ended up staring at that bottle, basically praying that it wouldn't land on any of us. But one by one, people started going into the cooler and basically, you know, doing the 7 minutes in heaven, which if you guys don't know what that is, it's basically when you spin a bottle and wherever it lands on from the person spinning the bottle, they have to spend 7 minutes with that person in a private room, and anything could happen in that 7 minutes. And by anything, I mean anything. So me, I remember I basically saw a lot of people spinning and going in and out, and it got to a point where it got pretty boring for some people. But then out of nowhere, I remember there was a girl that ended up spinning the bottle, and this girl was the girl that actually came to the back of the house back when I was actually finishing up my shift, and the one that invited me into the restaurant for the party. She ends up spinning the bottle, and me, I'm just sitting there just like seeing this bottle spin around and round and round until it finally ended up landing on me. She looks at me in shock, but at the same time, not like a shock like she didn't want to do it, in a shock like she was ready to take me back there. And I remember I stood up while everyone was like going, "Ooh." And I'm just kind of panicking, thinking, okay, you know what? This will be in and out. Just maybe we could just talk about work and just move on. We go back there, and instantly, right as we enter inside the cooler, she looks at me and says, "Bubba, you know, I've always kind of like thought you were cute, right?" What? I mean, I don't know. I'm just playing the game, okay? Just go along with it. Well, I mean, like, it's supposed to be 7 minutes in heaven. So are you like being honest with me? And at that moment, she ends up coming really close to me, and she actually ends up making out with me. And while one thing led to another, I'm not gonna lie, I never did the devil's tango. Less than 7 minutes until that day. I remember right afterwards, I ended up basically putting on my uniform again, and she put on hers because we were both working the late night shift. And basically, we ended up coming out and we ended up going straight into the restaurant where everyone else was. And when everyone saw us come back, this girl was like perfectly smiling while I was like coming in, basically kind of like in shock, kind of what just happened. And it was very obvious to everyone that she got some. And I remember my manager ended up walking up to me saying, "Yo, Bubba, did I tell you you're gonna enjoy this party or what?" Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I felt super uncomfortable that my manager said that to me. But not only that, the next couple weeks leading on from that happening, I am not joking, my manager would always bring up that moment. And this girl, she would always, and I mean always, try to hit me up, ask me on a date, all this stuff, to the point where I ended up actually just quitting. I ended up quitting the restaurant job because, well, there was so much drama that would happen, and I guess that's what happened when a lot of young people end up working at the restaurant. I don't know, my opinion, don't poop where you eat. This is a common saying that everyone needs to understand. But I mean, if you guys would date someone you're working, then follow for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys.